Ladies and gentlemen, today is an interesting segment. And when I say interesting, I mean extremely interesting because usually when I'm on, by the way, this is yours truly, attorney Michael Cord, here, TV Courtroom from 3:30 to 4:30 p.m. And we're going to get right into it after I give you a little introduction. And by a little introduction, I want you to know what it is we're going to be talking about today. And it's pretty simple. It's when I talk to audiences, I'm usually directing my comments to a particular demographic. But today, it's not to a particular demographic, it's to everybody because I'm talking about the Philadelphia Parking Authority. And every time I talk about the Philadelphia Parking Authority, I drop the F bomb because that's the only way to express your righteous indignation about the Philadelphia Parking Authority. But I'm not going to drop the F bomb in this segment because I want this to be played 24/7 or as close as possible here on what we do every Friday, first Friday of each month from 3:30 until 4:30. And I want this segment to be played on their radio station, I should say our radio station. By our, I mean Philly Cam. I want this presentation to be played on Philly Cam by way of TV and Philly Cam by way of our radio station. And I want it to be played all the time. When I get into dropping the F bomb, as I often do, we can't really air that during certain hours, or I should say, shouldn't air that. So I'm going to go about this in a strictly professional way without dropping the F bomb. But you'll be able to read between the lines. You know what I'm saying when I express my righteous indignation about the Philadelphia Parking Authority. Those of you who know me, you know I'm a criminal defense attorney and I specialize in homicide cases. So people are really shocked to say, okay, you're this attorney, you're handling homicide cases. Why are you spending time, wasting your time dealing with the menial stuff regarding the Philadelphia Parking Authority? The answer is I hate bullies. I hate bullies in all forms, especially when the bullies are powerful. And this bully, the Philadelphia Parking Authority, is extremely powerful because it's part of a government. I don't care whether it's a city government or a state government or a federal government. If you're a bully and you have the power of the state behind you, by state, I mean all of the entities, city, state, and federal. When I talk about that, I'm talking about an entity that has awesome power. Awesome power. They can pretty much do anything they want to, which is how bullies tend to act. But I'm standing up to the bully for you all. As a matter of fact, I'm calling the bully out. I'm telling him to meet me in the schoolyard at 3 o'clock. And when the deed is done, I will have punched him in the nose, bloodied it. I will have punched him in the eye, blackened it. And I will have taken his lunch money. I always tell people when it comes to the Philadelphia Parking Authority, I want to bankrupt it, then I want to destroy it. And that's exactly what I'm going to be talking to you about today. However, in my role as an attorney, there's something I need to say before I get into the legalities, because I'm going to be talking to you. And by the way, folks, get your pens out, get your pads out, turn your recorders on, because the stuff I'm about to tell you, you need to know so that you can battle these red light cameras, so you can battle these speed cameras, so you can battle these parking spot tickets. Because what the bully does in this case is to deny your legal rights. And when I fight against this bully, I'm fighting against it because its system is unfair. I'm fighting against this bully because its system is fraudulent. I'm fighting against this bully because the system is corrupt. And I want to say that at the outset because people say to me, and I'm going to talk more about it later in the show, hey, Mike, I get it. You know, you want to fight for justice, equality, and all that kind of stuff. But yo, people just can't roll through red lights. People can't travel 100 miles an hour down Broad Street. People can't get a 2-hour parking spot and keep it for 24 hours. I said, I get that. You're absolutely right. And I'm going to talk to you about why I battle the PPA's red light camera system, why I battle the PPA's speed camera system, why I battle the PPA's parking enforcement system, because its system is unfair, its system is fraudulent, and its system is corrupt. Before I get into nitty gritty, and remember, get your pens out, get your pads out, get your recorders out, because you need to hear what I'm about to tell you. But here's something I have to add in my role as an attorney. It's what we lawyers call a legal disclaimer. I'm going to read it a few times throughout the show so everybody knows what's going on. It goes like this. Legal disclaimer. The statements included in this show are for general informational purposes only and do not, I repeat, do not constitute legal advice. Moreover, no attorney-client relationship is intended, offered, or established directly or indirectly. For specific legal advice in regard to your specific legal matters, you must retain your own attorney. That's the legal disclaimer. I'm going to read it a few more times throughout the show so folks know what's going on. Having said that, please get your pens out and your pads out and your recorders out. I'm hoping that you spread the word to other people, because we're here to bankrupt the Philadelphia Parking Authority. We're here to destroy the Philadelphia Parking Authority. Why? Because the Philadelphia Parking Authority is what I call the municipal mafia. It's what I call highway robbers. Even better, it's what I call street thugs. So we got to stop the crimes committed by these street thugs by bankrupting the parking authority and by destroying the parking authority. When I say bankrupt, you have no idea how much money they get from you, how much they rob from you, how much they steal from you. Let me give you a quick heads up. It's $75 million a year, not total since they've been in existence, but they get at least $75 million a year from parking tickets. They get at least $25 million a year from red light cameras. They get another $25 million a year from these speed cameras. Do the math. 75 million, 25 million, and another 25 million. What's that, folks? That's $125 million a year that they get from people. Think about that. 125 million. And people might say, okay, Mike, that's a bunch of money. But you know that when the state took over the parking authority, that the purpose was to create money and be able to provide for better schools and streets and potholes and all that. Damn it, that's a bunch of BS. Because if the money were going to the Philadelphia School District, it wouldn't be in the financial plight that it's in. If it was going to taking care of the streets and repairing potholes, then you wouldn't have those rim rockers that you experience, almost like a roller coaster when you're going up certain streets and wrecking the frame of your car. In fact, some people even say that they have broken their axles on their vehicles. So the money is coming in, $125 million a year, but it's not going out to the Philadelphia School District. It's not going to repair the streets. You know what it's going to? It's going to six-figure salaries for these big-time officials in the Philadelphia Parking Authority. Let me put it all in context before I get right into the nitty-gritty regarding legal strategy. People know me as a Black civil rights activist fighting for racial equality, and they know that that's my lane. That's what I do. But as I said to you in the beginning of the show, this issue here regarding the Philadelphia Parking Authority, it crosses racial lines. Black people hate them, white people hate them, brown people hate them, yellow people hate them. All races, all colors hate the Philadelphia Parking Authority. All creeds hate the Philadelphia Parking Authority. All colors hate the Philadelphia Parking Authority. All religions, Muslims, Jewish folks, Christian folks, all religious folks. You can get segments from each of those groups that hate the Philadelphia Parking Authority. All neighborhoods hate the Philadelphia Parking Authority. South Philly, North Philly, Germantown, Southwest, every neighborhood hates the Philadelphia Parking Authority. Blue collar people hate Philadelphia Parking Authority. White collar people hate the Philadelphia Parking Authority. Minimum wage people in Philly hate the Philadelphia Parking Authority. Big money making millionaires in Philly hate the Philadelphia Parking Authority. Republicans hate the Philadelphia Parking Authority. Democrats hate the Philadelphia Parking Authority. Socialists hate the Philadelphia Parking Authority. Capitalists hate the. So I say, damn it, why does the Parking Authority even exist? It exists because all those people I mentioned, black, white, Christian, Muslim, Jewish, gay, straight, Republican, Democrat, they've never come together to fight the bully. But now I'm starting a movement for us all to come together. Forget your politics, forget your religion, forget your race. Let's all come together and destroy this bully. Way back in 1971, Frank Rizzo, then police commissioner, running for mayor. Even though there was a racial divide regarding Frank Rizzo, he said something that everybody came together on. He said that if he was elected, he would do all he could to break the effing pencils of the Philadelphia Parking Authority. Everybody hates the Philadelphia Parking Authority. It's what I said before, a municipal mafia. It's highway robbers. It's street thugs. And we ought to do something about it. And damn it, we're about to do something about it. What I'm going to do with this lesson, and folks, please make sure you take down exactly what I'm saying, because I'm going to talk to you about first how to beat red light camera tickets and how to beat speed camera tickets. But before I get into it, I must repeat again, legal disclaimer. The statements included in this program are for general informational purposes only and do not constitute legal advice. Moreover, no attorney-client relationship is intended, offered, or established directly or indirectly. For specific legal advice in regard to specific legal matters, you must retain your own attorney. Here's what you need to know when it comes to the red light camera system, when it comes to the speed camera system, when it comes to the parking enforcement system. Here's what you really need to understand, because it's critical. First, you have to go into these hearings. And by the way, let me just digress for a second. Before I tell you what to do with the hearings, let me tell you how the hearings are set up. And it's set up in a way that no other system of adjudication that I've ever heard of is set up. They have a hearing officer from the parking authority to decide whether you should give the parking authority money. Let me repeat that. When you fight your ticket and you go into the initial hearing, they have the Philadelphia Parking Authority employee who decides whether you should give money to the Philadelphia Parking Authority. That's almost like I'm a criminal defense attorney. That's almost like me going into a courtroom and the judge is the brother of the guy the DA says that my client robbed. So my client, Joe Blow, is accused of robbing Jack Smith. Joe Blow and I get into court. We see the judge is Jack Smith's brother. Hey, judge, you have to recuse yourself. You have to remove yourself from the case because you're connected to your brother. So you know you're going to find me guilty. That's the same thing the parking authority does. That initial hearing that you have with the Bureau of Administrative Adjudication, you go in to talk to a Philadelphia Parking Authority representative. Correction. You go in to talk to a Philadelphia Parking Authority employee about whether you should give the Philadelphia Parking Authority your hard-earned money. That's a blatant violation of due process. So now, speaking of due process, let me jump right into the legal information and what you need to do. But I digress. I need to digress for a second because I want to put this all in context. Although I'm not going to drop the F-bomb, I'm going to say the A word, ass. I kicked the Philadelphia Parking Authority's ass. They got me on one of these fake, bootleg, unfair, fraudulent, corrupt red light tickets, wanted me to pay $100. I went to that kangaroo court BS hearing they had. They found me liable, and I'm there as a lawyer making a legal argument But that hearing officer, who basically is paid by the Philadelphia Parking Authority, was like deer in the headlights. He either didn't understand my legal arguments or didn't care about them. So I went to that. They found me liable. I said, to hell with this. I'm going to appeal. And that's another thing. In most legal proceedings, whether it's a civil matter, you're suing somebody for medical malpractice or slip and fall, or a criminal matter, you're charged with the crime. After the first hearing, I should say the trial, they give you information sheets to tell you what you do to appeal. There's no such thing in the parking authority. Once you lose on that level, there are no instructions that are provided to you. So when they found me liable, I'm looking for the court rules as to what the process is to appeal and where you go. And it was crazy. Remember, I've been an attorney for 30 years. So after they found me liable, I'm like, I'm at the traffic court, 8th and Spring Garden. So I know it's got to be at least 30 days for an appeal. But I was doing some due diligence. So I came back before 10 days. And I asked the person at the front desk there at 8th and Spring Garden, hey, you all found me guilty about 9-10 days ago. I want to appeal. They told me I had to go all the way to the back down this long corridor. Remember, I'm at the traffic court at 8th and Spring Garden. Go down this corridor and pay $30 for an appeal. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to do that. But why was there never anything in writing telling me, one, how many days I have, two, what the cost is of the appeal, and three, where exactly I pay it? So I'm making calls, doing this, doing that. And finally, I'm instructed to go back down to 8th and Spring Garden. I talk to the receptionist. The receptionist directs me all the way down the corridor where they have the cash window, check window, credit card, make whatever payments. I told the person I wanted to appeal. They said $30. They take checks, cash, money order. So I said, okay, I'll write them a check because I wanted a paper trail like that. So I wrote the $30 check. I gave it to them. They said, okay, you'll get a notice about your appeal. And so maybe 2-3 weeks later, I get a notice and it says that I have to go to 8th and Spring Garden. I have to go to traffic court. And I'm thinking, that's weird. If I'm in a criminal case, if I'm found guilty in the Court of Common Pleas, I appeal up to the Pennsylvania Superior Court. If I lose there, I go up to the Pennsylvania Supreme Court. I don't file an appeal in the Court of Common Pleas and then come back to the Court of Common Pleas. I got to go up. So I said, okay, maybe they know something I don't know. So when they gave me a hearing date, I came back, and folks, I swear on everything I know and love, they sent me right back to the same room with the same hearing officers who found me liable about, I don't know, 3-4 weeks earlier. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, hey, I'm a criminal defense attorney who specializes in homicide cases. I don't do this traffic and parking stuff. I said, but it doesn't make any sense that I'm right back here. And in all fairness to one of the supervisors in the room, the woman said, Mr. Cord, you're absolutely right. I don't know why they scheduled it right here. I don't know why they sent you back here. I don't know why they charged you that $30. But what we're going to do, Mr. Cord, is we're going to tell you that we're going to allow you to appeal, and we're going to give you 30 days from today. Not 30 days from when you were first found liable, but 30 days from the day I was back there the second time. So I say to them, that's fair enough, but this completely wasted my time. And what the hell happened to the $30 I paid to get back here? I'm like, I'll deal with that later. So then I'm calling and emailing and checking websites and the rules and find that I need to file the appeal in City Hall, which makes sense because traffic court is municipal court. That's the lowest level. So if I'm going to appeal from municipal court, I go up to common pleas court. So when I was able to figure out where to go in City Hall in Court of Common Pleas to appeal, I went there. They have these relatively complicated forms. I say complicated, not for lawyers, but for the average Joe or the average Jane. They don't understand all of this stuff, but I filled out the stuff. And then they said, okay, Mr. Cord, you filled out everything correctly. Now you have to go to the cashier. So go to the cashier right there in that same appellate filing room. And the cashier says, that'll be $216. I'm like, what the? It's $100 red light camera ticket that I was illegally cited for. You're telling me now that I have to pay $216 for an unfair, for a fraudulent, and for a corrupt red light camera system. I got to pay $216 to show that you effed up. I'm like, no big deal. I paid the $216. So now the real legal machinery comes into play. What I mean by that is now the system is tight. Forget that dumbass Philadelphia Parking Authority stuff down the traffic court. Now we're in City Hall, and now there's a real filing office. Now there's a real Court of Common Pleas judge. Now there's a real lawyer representing the Philadelphia Parking Authority, and now there's me, a real lawyer. So we had to go in there. It was 9:30 in the morning, City Hall, courtroom 275. And when we got to courtroom, when I got to courtroom 275, I say we because when I got there must have been about 25, 30 other folks. Nobody else there fighting this was a lawyer except me. And my case might have been the fourth or fifth case called. It was so unfair to these people. Regular average Joes and regular average Janes, they had no idea about how to fight their case. All they know is that, hey, I didn't go through this red light. All they know is, hey, I didn't travel 26 miles an hour or higher on Broad Street. And they're trying to argue a factual case. But when you're at an appellate level, you got to argue the law. But they didn't know that. So, and it was a great judge. I'm not going to mention his name, but it was a great judge. But because the judge couldn't be the judge and be a lawyer or an advisor for these people, so these people put on a horrible case and they lost. And they had to pay all this money. There was one elderly Black woman who had a slight physical disability, and she had gotten so many tickets that her car was booted and towed. And then they wanted her to pay thousands of dollars to get it back. She lived alone. She didn't feel safe on SEPTA. It was just an effing nightmare. And my heart was bleeding for her. And I hear that case waiting for mine. I hear the next person's case, the next person's case. I'm like, this is an effing scam. Like what? So anyway, I don't know, fifth or sixth case, my case comes up, and here we are. But before I tell you here we are and what I argued and what you should argue, let me cut to the chase and say I kicked their asses in court with a real judge, a real lawyer representing the Philadelphia Parking Authority, and we all lawyers arguing the law. And I kicked their asses so bad that the judge ruled them. The judge didn't decide the case on that day because I made these legal arguments, and the judge was being fair. He was reading the law and trying to figure out how the law applied. He said he would HUA, that's held under advisement. So he didn't rule on that day. He said he would shortly. So maybe 2 weeks later, I get a letter in the mail basically saying, "Dear Attorney Michael Cord, you kicked the Philadelphia Parking Authority's ass. You beat those municipal mafia members. You beat those highway robbers. You beat those street thugs." So I'm like, yeah, everybody can party now. But then a day later, the Philadelphia Parking Authority files what we lawyers call a reconsideration motion. They said to the judge, "Your Honor, we're outraged. How in the world could you rule in Mr. Cord's favor? We want a do-over. We want a reconsideration. We want a new hearing." And to my surprise and kind of disappointment, the judge scheduled a reconsideration hearing for July 23. And those many of you who are watching met me outside City Hall in the courtyard on July 23. And the reason why I had my rally on July 23 is because that's the day I had that reconsideration hearing. And I was confused by why would the judge allow for reconsideration, because the judge already heard the lengthy arguments from the lawyers for both sides, me and the parking authority. The judge already held the case under advisement, which means he went back to his chambers and researched the matter for a couple of weeks and then decided that I win. So after that, I'm kind of surprised the judge granted the Philadelphia Parking Authority's request for a reconsideration, which was scheduled on July 23. But something great happened, ladies and gentlemen. About 2 weeks or so before, maybe 10 days to maybe a week to 10 days before the July 23 reconsideration hearing date, the judge sent an order to me as my own attorney and to the Philadelphia Parking Authority's attorney, and basically said this: Dear Philadelphia Parking Authority, Attorney Michael Cord Esquire kicked your ass at the first hearing. You made all the arguments you could make. He made all the arguments he could make. I've researched the issue for about 2 weeks and I made my ruling. There's no need for that reconsideration because nothing changed. The law is still the same. So cancel that July 23 reconsideration hearing and let's celebrate Mr. Cord's victory. The Philadelphia Parking Authority was livid. They were so livid, they immediately appealed. So follow me, folks. That first hearing in Philadelphia Traffic Court, that kangaroo court nonsense, that was in municipal court. Then I went to City Hall with a real judge, a parking authority lawyer, and myself, and we made complicated legal arguments, and I won. The parking authority asked the judge for a reconsideration. That same judge on Court of Common Pleas, the judge first said yes, then he said, hell no, get the hell out of here, Philadelphia Parking Authority. So now the Philadelphia Parking Authority appealed up. Now you might think if they're going to appeal, remember, municipal court first, common pleas court second, you might think the Superior Court next. And generally you would be right. But here's the thing. When you appeal from the Court of Common Pleas on a state-related matter regarding the city or the state, it doesn't go up to the Superior Court. It goes up to the Commonwealth Court. So the Philadelphia Parking Authority filed its appeal with the Commonwealth Court. And as of today's date, both sides, me and the Philadelphia Parking Authority, are waiting for a briefing schedule because the Commonwealth Court wants the lawyers to write a detailed brief setting forth their arguments. And once we both submit our briefs, then there's going to be an oral argument where we both sides go into the courtroom and we make our case orally in front of the judge. Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, everybody, I need you to attend that oral argument. We're now in August. I have no idea when the oral argument is going to take place, but if I had to guess, it's not going to be in August. It's probably not going to be in September. I'd say probably sometime in October, but it could be later. But if you want the schedule for the oral argument, email me at michaelcordx@gmail.com. michaelcordx@gmail.com. Our producer extraordinaire, Roland, has it up on the screen, MICHAELCOARD, the letter X, michaelcordx@gmail.com, and I'll send you the schedule for when the briefs are due. If you want a copy of my brief, I'll send you that. I'll send you the schedule for when the oral argument takes place so you can show up. And I'm talking to everybody because everybody hates the Philadelphia Parking Authority. I don't care what race you are. I don't care what creed you are. I don't care what color you are. I don't care what religion you are. I don't care what neighborhood you live in. I don't care whether you're blue collar or white collar. I don't care what your political affiliation is. Everybody hates the Philadelphia Parking Authority. All those different demographics I just mentioned, we can argue about stuff later. Legitimately argue about stuff later. But right now, let's all come together and bankrupt the Philadelphia Parking Authority and then destroy it. Let me now, before I get to the legal strategy, and our producer is going to put some information up on the screen in about a minute or two, but let me talk first about the history of the Parking Authority and technically what the Philadelphia Parking Authority is. They call it the Philadelphia Parking Authority, but really it's the Pennsylvania Parking Authority. I'll explain that in a second. The Philadelphia Parking Authority itself came into existence way back in 1950. And from 1950, for about 50 years, it did its thing in Philadelphia. But then there was rampant corruption and nepotism and patronage and just a whole bunch of BS going on with the Parking Authority and Traffic Court. So the state, remember, this is all Philadelphia, 1950. And then in 2001, the state of Pennsylvania, the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, snatched the jurisdiction from Philadelphia. So from 1950 to 2001, that's 51 years, Philly had it locked down, and it was horrific. It was corrupt. It was filled with nepotism, patronage, all that kind of stuff. So there's something called Act 22 of 2001. And Act 22 of 2001 is kind of complicated, but I'll cut to the chase. It took control of the Philadelphia Parking Authority away from the city and county of Philadelphia and gave it to the state in Harrisburg. So really, although it's still called the Philadelphia Parking Authority, it's technically the Pennsylvania Parking Authority. And people are saying, okay, Mike, if that's true, why do you spend so much time bashing the parking authority system here in Philly? Shouldn't you be bashing those folks in Harrisburg? Because once that Act 22 of 2001 came into existence, the governor is able to appoint 6 board members to supervise this new Philadelphia Parking Authority. So people are saying, well, Mike, why are you going after the city and its effed up system? Why don't you go after the state? And my answer is very simple. And I remember I called the Philadelphia Parking Authority the municipal mafia. Here's another analogy. Don Corleone wouldn't go out and kill people himself. He's the godfather. Don Corleone had button men on the street. He'd press the button, and the button men would kill so and so, murder so and so, assassinate so and so, strangle, beat, whatever. That's the button men. Well, those effed up meter maids and meter men in Philly, they're the button men. And the court system that supports Don Corleone. In this case, the Don Corleone is not in New York or Chicago or Detroit. Don Corleone is in Harrisburg. So Don Corleone, with the 6 board members pursuant to the Act 22 of 2001, are in Harrisburg pulling the strings. But they don't do the dirty work. The dirty work is done by the meter maids, done by the meter men, and done by the camera systems, which are monitored and supervised and maintained by the city of Philadelphia. So for me, my battle now is to stop the button men and women on the street, because that's a legal battle. When I get to Don Corleone in Harrisburg, that's a political battle. That's going to take a whole bunch of time. It's almost like at war. You're shooting at other privates from the other army. You never get a chance to shoot at the general, because the general's in the Pentagon. So you're shooting at that soldier from the opposing army. And that's what we're doing, ladies and gentlemen. We're the good army, and we're fighting the bad army. Ultimately, we're going to destroy the bad army's general in the Pentagon. We're going to destroy the mafiosos, Don Corleone, eventually. But right now, we're going after the soldiers from the bad army. We're going after the button men from the mafia. And that's the people maintaining this unfair system in Philly, maintaining this unfair, this fraudulent system in Philly, maintaining this corrupt system in Philly. We'll get to Don Corleone in Harrisburg eventually and force a change in the law. But right now, we're rumbling in the courts to beat the highway robbers. We're rumbling in the court to beat the street thugs. That's the background of the law. Now we're getting into the law. Our producer extraordinaire, Roland's going to put page 1 on the screen. And the page 1 right there, you can see it. And by the way, you might say, well, I can't really see it. It's not big enough. It's the perfect size there. Why? Because you're going to get your own copy. How are you going to get your own copy? By emailing me. First of all, I'm going to go through every word on what you see on the screen, break it down for you, but you're going to get not just this one page, not just the second page, but also the third page, a 3-page document. All you got to do is email me, michaelcoardx@gmail.com, MichaelCoard, the letter X, michaelcoardx@gmail.com. Roland put it back on the screen. I said it 10 times. He posted it a couple times. We're going to repeat it throughout. It's right there. So we're going to put page 1 back on, and you're going to get the copy for yourself. At the top, it reads, information to help fight Philadelphia Parking Authority red light camera tickets and speed camera tickets. And then there's an asterisk after the word tickets. At the very bottom, when we get to page 2, that's later, it says, all statements presented herein are to inform, not to advise. They are based on federal law, Pennsylvania law, and Philadelphia law as of the date of printing. They are general and are subject to change as a result of particular factual and or legal situations. For answers to specific questions, a consultation should be scheduled with a retained attorney. And then I talk about the disclaimer. What I'm providing to you all now, this is pro bono. And by the way, people think that pro bono means free. It doesn't really mean free. Pro bono comes from the Latin phrase for the public good. Pro is for, bono is good. So pro bono is a Latin term that means for the public good. Damn it, bankrupting and destroying the Philadelphia Parking Authority, that's not just the public good, that's for the public great. So instead of me charging you $150 for these 3 documents, I'm giving it to you because I want you to help me bankrupt the parking authority and ultimately destroy the parking authority. Again, at the top of page 1, it reads information to help fight Philadelphia Parking Authority, red light camera tickets, and speed camera tickets. And it reads as follows. When you have a Bureau of Administrative Adjudication, that's the BAA hearing, that's with the parking authority, you can argue the following if they apply to your case. Number 1, and this is critical. I'm going to read it and I'm going to explain it. Here's what it says. At the outset, state that your red light camera and speed camera arguments stem from federal and state constitutional grounds pertaining to due process / due course violations, and specifically cite the 5th and 14th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution, as well as Article 1, Sections 1 and 11 of the Pennsylvania Constitution. And then I go on to write, a due process or due course violation in this type of situation basically means that the city and state governments, by way of the Philadelphia Parking Authority, are illegally taking your property and are doing so without having a fair ticketing process, without having fair rules, and without having a fair BAA hearing procedure. That's number 1. What does all that mean? Here's what it means. The U.S. Constitution, 5th Amendment, applicable to the states to the 14th Amendment, and the Pennsylvania Constitution, because every state has its own separate constitution. And in Pennsylvania, that would be Article 1, Sections 1 and 11. What they basically say is this. The government, whether it's the city government, the state government, or the federal government, the government cannot take your life, your liberty, or your property without due process. Due process is key. Remember, they can't take your life, death penalty, they can't take your liberty, throwing you in jail, and they can't take your property, your money, your stuff without due process. I'm going to digress for about 30 seconds because I got to get back so we can wrap this up. But I'll never forget I had this horrific murder case several years ago, and my client is seen on video shooting and killing somebody. And it was a horrific shooting. He was robbing one person. Somebody else came into the store. He turned around, shot the person right between the eyes, killing them. And I'm representing the guy. And so I'm on my way into the courthouse one day, and the news crews were all out there. It was a high-profile case. And one local news reporter stuck his microphone and camera right in my face as I was walking to the courthouse and said, Mr. Cord, your client is on video murdering this person. Mr. Cord, what are you doing? And I turned around slowly, looked the reporter in the eye and said, you're absolutely right. The video does show my client murdering somebody. So based on what the video shows, we now have, sir, 2 options. 1, we can take my client out back for a lynching, or we can take him upstairs for a trial. Due process says you can't lynch people. You have to have a trial. And that's what I'm talking about here. So due process says you can't take my client's life without having a fair system in place. You can't take away my client's liberty without having a fair system in place. You can't take my client's money and property without having a fair system in place. Think about it. If what's on video is dispositive of the case, why have a case? Why do we even have trials? You see sometimes people go into banks with no mask on, and they rob the bank, they get caught, but they don't go straight to prison. They got to have a form. They got to have a preliminary arraignment. Then they got to have a preliminary hearing. Then they got to have a formal arraignment. Then they got to have a pretrial conference. Then they got to have a scheduling conference. Then they got to have a trial. Then they got to have a sentencing. Then they got to have a reconsideration opportunity. Then they got to have a direct appeal. So just because you see something on camera, that's not the end of the case. You can use that video during the trial to convict the person, but you don't just prove the case by way of the camera. And I'm going to tell you exactly why right now. I just talked to you about item 1 on page 1. Let's jump down to item 2 on page 1. And it says clearly, let me read it and explain it. Next, after you argue the constitutional stuff, due process in item 1, you jump down to item 2. Next, point out that the Pennsylvania Motor Vehicle Code states, quote, and listen to me clearly, states, quote, the city may not use an automated red light enforcement system unless there is posted an appropriate sign in a conspicuous place before the area in which the automated red light enforcement device is located, which is often approximately a half a block or so away from the device. In other words, if there's no clearly visible notification / warning, there's no violation. And if you want more information, I'm going to teach you how to do legal research. Just Google 75. 75 is the volume number. 75, then you put in PA.C.S. PA.C.S. That's the laws in Pennsylvania. It's the Pennsylvania Consolidated Statutes. So it's the volume 75. It's the publication of the book called Pennsylvania Consolidated Statutes. And then you want to go to section 3116H as in Harry 1 and 3117I as in Isaac 1. Once you go to that, and by the way, all the stuff is on the document that you can get easily by emailing me. All that fancy legal jargon I just said in item 2, here's what it means. If the red light camera is here at the intersection and I'm driving up this way, the law says there must be signage. Let me go back and explain this. And Roland is so thorough because he goes to the printed stuff when we need to be there and he goes to me when we need to be here. So what number 2 says is this. If there's a red light camera at the street intersection here and I'm driving up toward it, before this red light camera system can legally indicate that I ran the red light, there must be a sign here before you get there. And here is usually approximately about a half a block away. So there must be an alert, a notification saying red light camera ahead here before you get here. If they just give you the red light ticket, but there was no warning sign, the Pennsylvania Motor Vehicle Code says the red light camera ticket is invalid. That's due process. That's not a technicality. That's what the law says. But the average Joe and the average Jane has no idea about volume 75, Pennsylvania Consolidated Statutes, section 3116, H as in Harry 1, and 3117, I as in Isaac 1. They have no idea about that. But damn it, you do now, because you're looking at it, you're hearing it, and you're going to email me to get a copy. So before we get to number 3, number 2 simply says you cannot get a red light camera ticket legally unless there's a notification approximately about a half a block or so before you get to the intersection. That's number 2. Let's now jump to number 3, which is pretty quick. Number 3, after that, point out that the Philadelphia Parking Authority must produce documentary evidence that the automated red light enforcement system was officially approved by PennDOT. In other words, that red light system cannot have been approved by Radio Shack or some bootleg auto mechanic from South Philly. That red light camera system must not only have been approved by PennDOT, the Pennsylvania Department of Transportation, but it also has to be documentation showing that. So they can't just say, when I make the argument, hey, you claim I ran that red light. Was that red light system officially approved by PennDOT? They just can't say yes. They got to present a certificate, a document proving it. If they don't do that, volume 75, Pennsylvania Consolidated Statutes, section 3117H says that the red light camera ticket is invalid. That's not a technicality. That's what the law says. That's number 3 on page 1. Now, ladies and gentlemen, let's jump to page 2. And when we get to page 2 of the document, again, Email me, folks. I'll get this to you. Let's quickly go to item number 4. Item number 4 reads as follows. Following that, point out that the Philadelphia Code, remember, we started with the US Constitution and the Pennsylvania Constitution. Then we went to the Pennsylvania Motor Vehicle Code. Now we're going to the Philadelphia law. Number 4, following that, point out that the Philadelphia Code requires the Philadelphia Parking Authority to produce documentary evidence that, quote, this is what the law says, quote, the duration of the yellow light interval at intersections where red light enforcement systems are in use must conform to the yellow light change interval duration specified on the traffic signal permit issued for such signal. In other words, if the PPA doesn't produce the permit, there's no proof that the yellow light was displayed for a sufficient time to allow you to avoid the red light. What does all that mean? Here's what it means. Let's say I'm driving up whatever street. Let's say it's Broad Street. And let's say when I get to Erie, that I want to make that right turn off Broad onto Erie. But there's a sign saying no right turn on red. And now I'm coming up on green. As I'm getting into the intersection, it quickly turns yellow. But while I'm still in the intersection, it abruptly turns red. So now the camera catches me making that right turn on red where it says I can't do it. But here's the thing. Every yellow light has a legal duration period, and they vary. But generally, I'd say from 3 to 5 seconds, the yellow light. But what if there's a malfunction? And instead of giving me that 3 to 5 seconds, it gives me 1 second, or it gives me a half a second. So I didn't have enough time to avoid the red light. Item number 4 on page 2 of this document says that the parking authority must present a document stating that they have a permit showing that the red light change interval conformed with the law. If they don't do that, they lose. That's number 4. Let's quickly go to number 5. We're quickly running out of time. I want to get all this in. Number 5, if the red light enforcement system wasn't calibrated within 60 or sometimes 30 days before the alleged violation, the case must be dismissed. What I mean by that, those red light camera systems are computerized, and computers make mistakes if they're not programmed properly or if they're not updated properly. So every 60 days, they must be checked by computer engineers for PennDOT. Every 60 days, and in some case 30 days. What does that mean? That means when I go to my hearing, if the parking authority says that I ran this red light, let's say in July 1. Well, let's go back 60 days. That would be June, that would be May. They have to present at the hearing a document indicating that that red light system was calibrated within 60 days of the, not of the hearing, but within 60 days of the date of the citation. I want to be clear because that was kind of confusing the way I said it, but let me make it simple. Let's say I got the ticket on July 1, and then I come for my hearing. Let's say it's in August. July 1 is the date I'm talking about. That's the date I got. I come to the hearing. The parking authority must have documentation that within 60 days, or some cases 30 days before I got that July 1 ticket, that red light camera system was properly calibrated, which means it was checked for accuracy by certified engineers. They have to present a document showing that it was properly calibrated. If they don't, the law says that they lose and I win. That's number 5 on the list. Let's quickly go to number 6. If the red light enforcement violation notification wasn't mailed to you within 30 days after the alleged violation, the case must be dismissed. So I get my ticket, or they claim the violation took place on July 1. They now have to send me a notice of the hearing within 30 days of that July 1 date. If it's 35 days later, if it's 31 days later, they lose and I win. That's the law. That's number 6 on the document. Then we get to number 7. If you weren't the driver during the alleged red light violation, the case must be dismissed. There's a good friend of mine who got a ticket mailed to him based on somebody running a red light. But my friend wasn't driving. My friend let another person drive. And it's the other person who apparently or allegedly ran the red light. You know, the great thing about the law concerning the fact that they have to prove the parking authority that you were the driver, that if you were not the driver, and this is what the law says, if you were not the driver, all you have to say is, I wasn't the driver. But the law says you don't have to snitch. So if I'm Joe and I am the owner of the car and I got the ticket, but I let my homie Steve, my next door neighbor, drive my car that night, and apparently he allegedly ran the red light. All I have to do as the owner is say, it wasn't me. And you can't prove it was me because it wasn't me. The law says all they have to do is to say that, and the law also says I don't have to snitch on Steve. I just say it wasn't me. I don't have to tell you who it was. I then beat the case. Number 8 on page 2. In regard to the speed camera cases, everything I was saying before is pretty much the red light. But now we're number 8 on page 2 of the document. Number 8, in regard to speed camera cases, this is important. In regard to speed camera cases, here are some potential defenses. A, the case must be dismissed if you weren't the speeding driver. The same thing I said about the red light. They have to prove that you were. And the part I said about all you got to say is that it wasn't you if it wasn't you. And then it says, well, this is what I'm saying. It means you're not legally required to snitch on the person who was driving. You want proof of that? Just like I told you about the other laws, go to and Google this. Philadelphia Code 12-3408 in parentheses 2 in parentheses B. Once again, Philadelphia Code 12-3408 parentheses 2 parentheses B about they got to prove that you were the driver. And if you weren't, you don't have to snitch on the person who was. That's 8A. 8B. The speeding device, just like the red light camera, also has to be properly calibrated, which means tested for accuracy. And that's not only in the motor vehicle code, specifically volume 75, Pennsylvania Consolidated Statutes 3368, C as in cat, 1 through 4. It's not just that. It's also the Philadelphia Code 12-3408 in parentheses 2D as in David. That's 8B. And then finally, we jump to 8C. If you didn't receive the mailed notification that was postmarked within 30 days after the violation, you win the case. So page 1 and page 2 dealt with the red light camera system and with the speeding camera system. In the final 5 minutes or so, we're going to go to page 3. And page 3 is the last page, and this deals with the final page after that second page we just talked about. At the top, it reads, information to help fight Philadelphia Parking Authority parking tickets before speed cameras, before red light cameras. Now it's parking tickets, and here's how it goes. When you have a Bureau of Administrative Adjudication hearing, you can argue the following, if applicable. 1, request an immediate dismissal if the parking street sign was not facing you directly as you drove toward the parking space, or if the parking street sign was not reasonably visible due to trees, branches, poles, flyers, handbills, posters, graffiti, etc. And make sure you bring photographs showing that the sign was not facing you properly and or that the sign was not otherwise reasonably visible. If you want to know where I got this from, Google Bureau of Administrative Adjudication Regulations, section 5.02, E as in Eric, letter I through X. It's right there. What does all that mean? Prime example, when I got a parking ticket a few years ago, I'm going to my office. I'm on Market Street. And as I'm traveling eastbound on Market Street. And as I park my car in front of my law office building, there's a sign there about parking, but the sign's supposed to be facing me as I'm driving toward it. I got to see it. If that sign is sideways or if that sign is turned the other way, the parking ticket is invalid. Read item number one when you receive it for more information. Number two, request an immediate dismissal if the ticket does not have the precise location. In other words, the specific street address as opposed to merely the block where you were parked. What does that mean? That means ticket can't say Michael Cord illegally parked in the 1300 block of Main Street. No, it's got to say Michael Cord parked illegally near or across from 1303 Main Street or 1329 Main Street, not the entire block, but I'm actually parked at one location. Number two makes it clear that the precise location must be there. You want proof? Go to Bureau of Administrative Adjudication Regulations, section 5.02E as in Eric, and then it's I through X right there, quickly. Because you got to wrap it up in 3 minutes. Number three, although Philadelphia Parking Authority hearsay evidence is generally admissible, you can make a hearsay argument saying that the meter maid or the meter man who issued the ticket should be there because you want to question that person about something in particular. Where does that come from? All you got to do is go to a case called Kovler, Kovler, versus the Bureau of Administrative Adjudication, and that's a Pennsylvania Commonwealth Court case from 2010. And then finally, if you are found liable at the initial hearing, request that you immediately be provided with a written opinion that sets forth the specific factual basis. Let me just say this, folks, and this is critically important. You got to, I repeat, you got to get a copy of these 3 pages. Email me at michaelcordx@gmail.com. That's michaelcordx@gmail.com, and I'll be sure to get this to you immediately. And don't just fight this battle for yourself. Spread the word, because we want to bankrupt and destroy the Philadelphia Parking Authority. Who is we? We is Black folks and white folks. We is yellow folks and brown folks. We are Jewish folks and Muslim folks. We are Christian folks and Catholic folks. We are North Philly. We are South Philly. We are Southwest. We are Germantown. We are blue collar. We are white collar. We are Republican. We are Democrat. We are capitalist. We are socialist. Everybody hates the Philadelphia Parking Authority. Email me at michaelcordx@gmail.com. Get a copy of this and fight the good fight. And let me close once again with the legal disclaimer. The statements included in this program are for general informational purposes only and do not constitute legal advice. Moreover, no attorney-client relationship is intended, offered, or established directly or indirectly. For specific legal advice in regard to specific legal matters, you must retain your own attorney. Folks, I'm amped up, I'm hyped up, I'm fired up, and I hope you are too, because the corrupt, because the unfair, and because the fraudulent system that jacks you for your hard-earned money needs to be bankrupted and needs to be clearly destroyed. I wish we can put all their asses in jail. As I pointed out before, everybody hates the Philadelphia Parking Authority. We need to band together to destroy this municipal mafia, to destroy these highway robbers, to destroy these street thugs. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful weekend. I'm out.